Okay. Okay. I'm going to start a few minutes early because the technology worked out fine. And so the extra time I had allotted for myself in case of problems wasn't needed. I'm Jane Frizzell. This is live stream testing. Okay. Live stream. This live stream is a pilot and a taping session for a class that will come out in autumn of 2026. Probably in Thanksgiving. The class number is 201. The subject of the class is, I'm going to start the screen share so you can. Now, and I think the screen share takes a moment. Many people in social media in the digital world. I just can't see the thing. I'm going to try it again because I tested it. No, I have performance from those kind of things. So I'm going to do this. This. I can't make this work when I scratch this section because the whole point of it is assessing images in the digital world. There are so many problems going on in the digital world. And nobody is, too few people are really doing anything. So let's see if this is going to make me. So you can show me the necessary images. If not, I know a very hand-handed way to do it. I think it's going to look nice. Oops. Now with this information. Okay, it looks like it's working on it. And I believe there is this little lag when screen share starts to populate so that you guys can see the image. Okay, as I was saying, there is a very foundational problem, an underlying problem rampant in the digital first world. And the first world, like it or not, is very prone to what is happening online. The subject of this class or this pilot program is, this looks right. How do I know whether it actually is? And this is the problem class 201 will be built to solve. 201 is also going to serve as a testing vehicle for riders and trainers who are already in the program that I assemble and operate, so that they can start to test themselves what they're seeing, what they would say is going on, blah, 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 and be able to dispatch an assessment easily and with citations. So they're not just saying their opinion, the assessment of what we will be examining has to, you have to back it up. It has to be backed. Okay, but I am going to restate the problem, the digital problem for horses in the online space is that most of what is being stamped as classical or good or whatever the buzzword du jour is, isn't, and people are being fooled. So what we're going to do through this series and into this class is train your eye, test your judgment, and you will stop being fooled. Your noticing will start to become very accurate and certain. All right. Analysis says the first cannot hide the truth. No, actually, they do hide the truth. Captions and then claims do. So this is just a theory of use. And this is for educational purposes. Now, I do want to say that I probably get 5 times a week people sending me things that they've seen on social media that are concerning them. False, tall claims, and just very, very dishonest and ignorant. So this is the subject for today. I'm going to try to blow it up a little bit. I'm not hiding who the person is and how it's really good start as a little broad. Which is okay. The claim. Every time we do these assessments, there's going to be what is being claimed, and then you, the student or person in training, what do you see? Could this horse go forward? And why? Why could it or could it not? And what principles from the dead man, from the bibliography, explain with these data? So this woman, she tends to pick up on topics that I'm interested in, actually, because the thoracic sling is a stupid fake thing. It's not the way that horsemen think about making a light forehead. And so she's saying the thoracic sling is what lifts the horse. She's saying that's a false claim. And that is true. That is a false claim. And it's also a false claim that the hindquarters aren't that important. And she's saying, oh, well, that's wrong. Hold my beer. I'll show you hindquarters are the whole deal, which is true. But the hindquarters, I said it to her, these demo photos are not showing the hindquarters properly. You will not get the result you profess here. The forehand is wrong too. How do I know this? So that's the most important part about this. How do I know this? Why does my eye know this automatically? And how can I explain it to you? So if let's get zeroed in on, we're going to use mainly this third photo, and you can go find this whole thread if you want to go continue out online. I would welcome to do that because it's really involved and pretty crazy. And the crazy taking is very much off the topic of why this doesn't demonstrate hindquarters that are responsible for a correct displaceability. All right. So I hope I've explained the claim because there's a little bit of a mixed up. And now I'm going to ask all of you to look at the hind feet of the horse. We're going to talk about the hindquarters first. You will see that the hindquarters, that the feet of the hindquarters, the back feet, one is pointing east northeast, one is pointing west northwest. So that tells us that, what I should say, what does that tell us? Well, first of all, the horse cannot be straight. So he technically could not be forward. And what has happened is the horse is overloaded in his hindquarters. In the zeal to prove that she can affect the hindquarters, the warning we are given on page 71 by Steinbrecht is demonstrated here, but we should not suppress the thrust by overdoing it. So this is an example of hindquarters that have been, that she overdid it, and there is no thrust operable in these hindquarters. If the horse was going to, if we were going to try to get this horse to advance from this situation, it would need to stagger and reset its footprints in order to proceed. And that, so two things are, that means it's straight. So the hindquarters are overloaded. The thrust has been totally suppressed and is now not available. And the horse is not straight. And notice because the hind feet are moving out to two sides instead of going to one direction. But there you go, if they were to go. This is also a good warning against trying to prove things at a stop. And there are many, many examples of this. There is no collection. Well, you can have collection in a stop. In a horse that is stopped. But the same rules that apply, the forward straight rules that you guys have been learning, still apply. And that is one thing I would like to be able to teach you guys to be able to see easily, because one of the primary arguments the untrained classical people say online is that it's just a moment in time, it's stop action, the next frame it resolves. But no, because when a horse is going correctly, there isn't, things don't need to resolve to proceed. The forward straight, the two golden rules of riding, are going on in all circumstances, in all conditions, so that the horse doesn't have to reorganize or reset in order to continue on. That's a very big idea. All right, so The forehand, now let's talk about, we've talked about the hindquarters. Let's talk about the forehand. The horse in this situation is flexed slightly toward the left. So we can assume a left going here. When a horse has a correct displaceable forehand, a trained displaceable forehand, that means that the forehand has been united by the bearing effect, which is usually the outer rein. It's the outer rein of the of position. Position in this case is left. So we want to see horse position left, right bearing effect. What the bearing effect does is, when the masters use the word bind, it binds the forehand so that the forehand starts to act as a unit instead of one part being left and another part going on. Can you see what I just did? Step down on the right. No, it's all backwards. If I'm going left, I do not first plant myself to the front on the right. If I'm going left, my horse needs to sit back, and the right side, the outside, the bearing effect, we allow the outside to come around first. Now, why I'm really picking on this is because teaching the horse this idea of the bearing effect should be installed at the very start of the education. That is very, we cite that is Somer 1912, section 17, the start of the education of the horse. In the first few days after backing, as soon as that horse is off the lunge line with the rider, it learns to follow the opening rein. The very next thing it learns is the bearing. Now, I'm going to show, this is a well-trained, normal horse, not doing anything fancy. The horse, it's doing about on haunches actually toward the left. So we have a collected exercise with the horse flexed toward the left, about to go to the left or going to. The hindquarters are load bearing, but we can see that his feet, if we drew very, very perfect lines down the midlines of his hooves, they are exactly facing the feet that track in front of him. That is a priority for straight and forward horses. Horses cannot be forward if we're not straight, cannot really be straight. And straight and forward work together. I don't think you can have the other. Okay, now what we see in the forehand of we also see a contact that's, we see straight line over the bit, very plain, properly shortened rein, so that there is contact, and the bearing effect, the horse is following the left rein with his outer foreleg, and we can see that it is his right foreleg that is coming around for this turn on the spot. Okay. Another thing that we could say with the wrong horse that sort of seems right is that she claims, you can go and see what all the things she claimed in her rebuttals of what I said. She said the horse is through. I don't know where she gets that idea. But a horse that is through, the throughness is transmission of motion, momentum, and impulse, and including information retrieval leads. So there's no thrust or momentum that's going to be able to go through the system. And the forehand isn't united and operating properly. So we cannot wed the hindquarters to the forehand and have things go through properly. Plus, a sagging rein these days is a badge of, it's like a humble brag badge. It's everyone wants to show off their saggy reins, but a properly connected rein is a very important thing. And you can also see in those situations that the motion, momentum, impulse, and the rider's communication to the horse is operating in what's standard called a closed loop. So there's nothing squirting out, blah, 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 blah. Now this horse, if the purpose of this photograph was just a simple left turn, opening, following in it left rein and the bearing fact to show a displace of the forehand. This horse, if ridden more forward in collection, could easily sit down and bring the whole forehand around as like a canter pirouette, like the horse that we saw in the assessment painting. But that comes, this horse would eventually make a nice sitting down, engaged, collected hind end pirouette turn with the outer forehand coming around properly and softly. But the other one won't develop into that. And that's a very important idea, because that's another excuse that people throw out. Well, the horse is green, he's just learning. But we do not learn the wrong, you cannot teach them a wrong order of things or a wrong method and have it develop into the right thing. So I want to reiterate that this very important idea about uniting the forehand is part of the start of the education. I would say that really does mean in the first 3 to 5 days of riding off the lunge line, very, very early education stuff. So there's no excuse for collecting with air quotes a horse so much and it not having even a forehand yet. That's a really early task that must be dealt with early. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys a very end game outcome if the horse has symmetrical displaceable forehands. Well, his forehand operates as a unit and his hindquarters have been properly developed to accept load, which includes thrust. His propulsion is evident still. This horse could either leap forward or he could drop and trot off. There's some really good, there's a great example, a great, I think, on Houseburger's timeline. I have it saved somewhere of a horse doing it. I think it does a capriole and then it lands and trots. You see it land and trot off forward. And that is really the essence of all this. And I want to remind you guys, if we look back at, the little preliminary, this is a horse that is doing the turn on the haunches. But he's doing it the right way, loading his hind end, bringing his outside forehand around. We train each side individually with alternating exercises until the horse is ready for bilateral load-bearing straight collection, as we see here. So the assessment photo will never turn into this, and the assessment photo will never turn into the normal horse example that I showed. Because for that to happen, the horse needs to learn coxofemoral articulation by load bearing in motion, not at a stop. And it needs to have bearing effect put into its mind and a set of ideas in his sweet mind to unite his forehead within the first few days of his education. Okay, I will put the bibliography where, if anyone wants to know where the facts that I was citing can be found. I think most of you who are going to see this already know this stuff, but that is, let me just say it. This looks okay. That's the problem. If you don't, if you're not trained, and you don't look carefully, you think, oh, look, its hind end sitting on the back. Its withers are above its croup. The reins are soft. But, oh, my dear teacher, Major Linden, he would say, my dear, you must scratch,